Welcome, welcome, welcome. I need to relax and chill out. Anybody else need to relax and chill out? Well, let's join. Let's start. Let's train. Let's pick around with some lo-fi music. Man, let's just play. Let's just play the game. Look, look. Patience. It's fine. Excuse me. You know what? I haven't. Why have not? I just thought about this. Why haven't I been a tail? Oh, you just not figured that out. So you just now figured out that because the way that the internet was implemented and how many young women got on the internet back in the day, they were groomed without us knowing because I mean we were just young, obviously. They were groomed to hate men. Hmm. Think about that. Because how much you think? Think about this. How much you hear your cousin or sister talking about how much they hate men outside of the internet in real life, IRL. How much you think you hear that versus how much you see it online, whether it's on their profile or their friend's profile or one of your friends' profiles. You know, you're gonna see it a lot more. And don't point it out. Don't point it out to them because then they get uber mad for some reason. Mm, 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 mm. Yeah. We got some friends. Uh, that hurt my nose. Ow. Oh, that's why. I always come back to this setup. I always come back to this setup. Because this doesn't work. Is that so 10, 20, five, 10, 20, 30, 5. Math. Yeah.
because men are bigger, stronger, faster, and they will always outperform women in any sort of test. This will always be the case. So the only cases where women are powerful in terms of a revolutionary sense is in societies that allow aggression to exist unchecked, which is our society. And it should be any society. Like somebody should be able to be aggressive without being punched in the face, right? And very clear. Women have more radical ideologies and adopt them way quicker than men. Well, why did they do that? They do that because obviously, right? I mean, that's the reason why. And that's again the compelling nature of consensus for women. And I think that social media manufactures that consensus. And sometimes it is that consensus. And so once women see, and I think there's also men do this too, but women just do it in a much higher ratio. And once they see that, well, everybody thinks this and everybody's believing this, then they go with them. Then they start moving with them. And then that's it. It stops progress. Well, whether it stops or not, that's what's happening. That's my point. And read articles on the lives of what being a progressive actually means. Read the red flags of the brand and angry young woman well. They remind me of the art of politics students that being 95% were women. Almost all of their ideas were the same, all lacking in originality and bravery. Every pitch just spineless rehash combo and LGBT and feminist sound like. It was so tiresome. And these were masters too. One of the world's most prestigious all time. That's the problem. And there's also a big issue that a lot of these women that are getting into college probably shouldn't be there. Like they're getting fake degrees for fake jobs. It's a waste of everybody's time and resources. And the only reason why it's happening is because of DEI. It's because of DEI and other forms of selective hiring process. That's what's happening. Like a lot of this, and by the way, how do you know this is true? Because of Twitter. Elon Musk, and I've got to say, now I'm not trying to put Elon on the spot here, right? But let's look at here. I'll show you this. There's nothing that you missed. Well, I guess I can't pause it. I'm sorry. But there were two pictures posted. One was a picture of before they made the change of Twitter name, and then after they made the change of Twitter name. And it went from a romance novel book club to a Warhammer 40K convention. Let me just say that. All right? Totally changed. Before and after Twitter team? Okay, I'll see if this. Let me see if I can get this. Oh, this might not be it. Let me see if I can find. Yep, there it is. There it is. Where about women gone from Elon Musk's Twitter? There you go. That's right. No girls allowed. Yep. So what's happened, I think, is that universities and different programs have created this artificial idea that the participation rate of men and women inside of different fields needs to have parity. It needs to be equal. But the problem there is that some fields are just going to attract more men, and some fields are going to attract more women. So the problem is that whenever you manufacture that parity, you add people in that shouldn't be there. And that's what's happened is that you've had a lot of these people that I think have, again, like take a look at how many opportunities and advantages and programs and possibilities and things that you can take advantage of and everything else, like internships and mentorships that are reserved for women. They're reserved for women primarily. And overwhelmingly. So how is it that you have to do all this in order to create the parity? It's because it doesn't exist. It's just not real. And so what happens is that this is the second order effect is that you get very, very stupid college students who should have never been in college in the first place. And the only reason they probably were in college is because of a lifetime of preferential treatment, advantages, and systematic, basically benefits. That's what's happening. That's exactly what's happening. Is that they've been given all these systematic benefits and advantages, and because of that, they've been able to achieve a certain level of parity. But the moment that that meritocracy is once again enforced, things go back to default settings really quick. And you can look at IQ distribution with men and women. You can look at everything. And the thing is that a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about are things that nobody else will ever say. Nobody else will ever say a lot of this stuff. And the reason why is because it's politically incorrect. It's politically incorrect to say that very obviously, IQ between men and women are different, but men are much more likely to be on the tail end of IQ. Like, for example, you've got a lot more retarded men, and you've got a lot more, IQ Galileans, right? And so, like, at a person at 150 or at 50 is probably going to be a guy, and at 100 is probably going to be more likely to be a woman. That's it. That's fair. And so, anyway, I learned that. Yeah, this is true. And so, and I'll say, people hate people. Well, yeah, it's very taboo. Well, and think about that, right? Why is it taboo to acknowledge a biological reality? Think about that. It's because, again, what I was saying, the manufactured consensus of a false reality. And the moment that you build your worldview and you try to build, when you try to build a castle on sand on a house of cards, it will always collapse. And that's the reason why their worldviews always collapse. That's the reason why these people never achieve anything. It's because there's no foundation underneath it. And I don't want to get good. So, Dan, anyone say that? No, actually, I haven't. I've been on like a one hour and 40-minute rant, basically, right? And I've got a lot to say about it. And anyway, let me go back over here. Progress isn't achieved by creatures or guardians of morality, but by madmen, hermits, heretics, dreamers, rebels, and skeptics. That's the first. And anyway, I'll look at some more things because there's still even more to go through. But this research has, again, it's defined basically nobody, but again, there it is. And then this is also another one. And let's look at the other angle of it. I told my sister about IQ curves, they were mad. I mean, the thing is that the truth hurts. That's the way it is. That's the way it is. And we have, and this is the problem, is that we have an entire society that is built to go to war with reality itself. People don't want to acknowledge that gender is real. People don't want to acknowledge that men and women are different. People don't want to acknowledge genetic differences between different ages. So we live in this hyper reality that's been completely manufactured by people that want to subvert it. And it's happening on every single level. Follows on a run. I mean, somebody's got to say it, right? Angel stuff. But it's got to be stuff. It's got to be strong. And the fucking fool. I can't believe you got a glass full of this. They say higher education is outdated, irrelevant, but at Grand Canyon University, we share the status quo. GCU's online master's degree programs in technology combine hands-on projects with coursework to help you innovate across digital and physical environments. At GCU, it's emerging technologies with faith, integrity, and purpose. This is purpose-driven education. Take action. Find your purpose at Grand Canyon University. Visit gcu.edu. It's pretty upsetting when you can pay for a certain amount of download and the upload speed doesn't match that. So I like my Google Fiber since it's much more speed. So I love it. I love my Google Fiber. Do you love Fiber? was a stay-at-home boyfriend myself. The only difference is I didn't have a girlfriend. I just stayed at home.
Here's a headline for you. The stay-at-home boyfriend is now an economic trend as more women than men go to work. And the reason they found is that fewer young men, Maggie, are entering the workforce than their fathers, their parents were. Is this a trend that you are noticing personally? And what do you think about this? Yes, well, on the internet, we call those men needs, so they're not in education, employment, or training. I think a lot of men.
That's not a gendered term, by the way. Women can be needs too.
Feel really comfortable sitting online all day long. That's a very comforting space for them. And if they're being financially supported, whether by parents or a girlfriend, God knows why that woman chose them, then of course they.
And this is always what a pretty young girl will come to the conclusion of. And the thing is that she's actually not wrong. Like, I have very traditional views on marriage. I think that you should be able to earn a living with one person working, and the person working should be the man. And the woman should stay home and take care of the kids. I would never force a woman to do that, but I would want to be in a relationship or a marriage with a woman who wanted to do that. How do I know that works?
Have you not paid attention to history?
Guys,
Man, history is a thing. Oh my goodness. Man, imagine that. Imagine that divorce rates were at an all-time low when men went to work and women stayed home. Imagine divorce rates being super low. Imagine why. Because look, this what you do. This what's gonna happen, right? The narrative is gonna be flipped. Guys are just gonna start staying home, being the staying home one, right? And you know what's gonna happen? She's gonna come home. She's gonna want to dump all her emotions and her stress on him and expect him not to say nothing and to be fully supportive. But if you flip back to reality, when that happens at a house and it's flipped the other way around, it's not accepted generally in most cases, or it's listened to and then used later as a weapon, which just sucks.
they were divorced. But my mom was still a stay-at-home mom because she was a kid. She was. She never wanted to leave the job. She never wanted to do anything. All she wanted to do all the time was sit on the computer, watch movies, eat chocolate, and be taken to Taco Bell. Be not go to Taco Bell. Be taken to Taco Bell. She's in the passenger seat, and that's it. And the thing is that the amount of enrichment in the lives of myself, Zach, Cody, Jeff, Cameron, other Codys, Logan, Darren, like all my friends, I'm probably naming them 20 things like 10 of them. I had another 15 one friend of mine, another 4 friend of ours, on that list. And we asked ourselves, was this friend situation that they're in right now, and honestly, like, I think, like, if our mom was still alive, because they were, like, we were that close. And we agreed, like, no, hold on. And so that was a really important thing for me. It was a tremendous important thing for me. And so my outlook on it, let's pay it forward. Let's make sure that somebody has that opportunity to have this happen. You know, that rather than trying to pull the ladder up, rather than trying to say that this is that, that's it. Yeah, exactly. And so, like, and the thing is that, and people will remember her, we'll all remember her for the rest of our life. Like, I mean, yeah, she was a writer and she was very successful at that. She was an artist and everything. But that's not what we're really thinking about. We use those things to remember her by. But what we really remember is the impact that she had on our lives. And so this one-dimensional, now I'm going to say it, capitalistic idea that a person's worth and value should be measured purely by their economic impact is poisonous. It's completely poisonous. And I think we need to do more to get rid of it. We do. Not capitalism. Well, I mean, you can say, what do you want to call it, right? Like a financially economic focus. Like a person's value is not the amount of money that they make. Is that pro-immigrant, bro?
It continues to do that. I think that's very disturbing. I would not have any stay-at-home boyfriend personally.
That's right. That's right. And you're cute enough that to be a stay-at-home girlfriend if you want. You are. And women will always dog on men for being stay-at-home boyfriends. But at the same time, the reality is that these systems that women have wanted to be implemented have created men to be stay-at-home boyfriends. That's
Duh.
how you
Well, yeah. When women force men out of the workplace, what do you think men are going to do? They're going to want to start trying to stay at home. They don't want to stay at home, so I'm stay at home. Well, like that's what's going to happen. You got a whole generation of dudes that just want to be at home boyfriends. Why is that? Well, because women don't want to be stay at home girlfriends. You know what I'm saying?
and then getting plastic surgery, turning out
So
and then getting depressed and having mental breakdowns at like
I can see it. Nah, I couldn't do that. I couldn't. I'd go stir crazy. But
and there's something wrong with
I know there are some guys out there that could do that.
I have no
And if you
issue
could,
at all.
go for it.
But at the same time, the glorification of it, the focus on it, and I mean, at a certain point, whenever what was it been like a bad Barbie or bad baby or something,
Bad baby.
has the outside girl from Dr. Phil and Little K, like they get famous when they're like 9 years old and when they're like 13 or 14 years old, and they have people pre-ordering their OnlyFans. We got ourselves a problem. There's something wrong. There's something wrong. Really, really just
Yeah.
I'm serious. Like,
Nah, he's right.
y'all
Mhm.
can look at Little K, which is actually right? And so here's the problem, right? How did these girls have the idea to go and do OnlyFans and stuff like this whenever they're turning? Because they're probably getting groomed on the internet by adult men who are telling them to do. That's the reason why. And by other adults that are trying to feed into this idea. The Epstein, exactly. Like the Epstein files is real, but it's not just people that are really rich. And there's a lot of Epsteins. And depending on the middleman, yeah, I mean, again, I don't have a problem with girls that do it, but it needs to be a lifestyle, right? And anyway, no, I think that there's, and look at this tweet, right? 7.2 million views. Look at this. And so, me greeting my wife in nothing but an apron and a drug-induced direction. Hi, honey, how was your bullshit?
Oh man.
How was your job? How was your job today? Yeah, there it is. As a stay-at-home husband, I spend most of the day lifting, canning, training martial arts, and reading philosophy. Yeah, there it is. And so we're just going to pretend that college or workforce gives you everything possible to kick out young men. Exactly. So corporate America promised to hire a lot more people of color. It actually did. White was 60%, people of color, 94%.
Holy crap.
I really thought I'd get actual pushback. Someone somewhere articulating a theory of what I got wrong, why DEI was good or necessary. This year ad hominem, total what's that book? There's nothing under the hood. And curious about the world that they actually live in. So, again, the lost generation. Oh boy.
Oh,
Why
okay.
is sex hiring and
My bad.
told to stop hiring like this? There you go. And so this is the reason why you have these things happen. And this is something that was done. It did not happen to them. It was done to them intentionally with a malicious intent. It was done with a malicious intent, and it was done to hurt them. And it worked. It worked. Why is this happening to us? Aries, because there are too many men. Here's the reason why it happens. It's because there are too many men that are eager to sell themselves and sell other men out in order to, they will throw away
To impress a female.
that they have
Yeah.
just for a crumb of pussy. That's the reason why. Just because they're good boys on, on a Twitter post. That's the reason why. That's all there is. Too many steps.
Yo,
Too many steps. And eventually, I think
it's the simple Olympics out here.
because now, like these conditions are becoming so problematic that it's like something like this. I hate to say this, guys. Has there ever been a single society in the history of societies where young, able-bodied, military-aged men were systematically disadvantaged and there wasn't something bad that happened?
At Googling, I get NBC saying apples, strawberries, and blueberries. Me too. I don't think that's the same thing. It is. Hi. The breath.
Real friend. How old do you think I am? I'm pretty sure the probability for something bad happening on that's like 100%, right? Amazon? Yeah, okay, so the one that's not real. Okay, yeah, sure, like Wonder Woman. Great point. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I think that's pretty substantial. Pretty substantial, right? And basically, exactly, it takes a while, though. Yeah. And this is the result of stop bullying, and these kids that got bullied turned out to be autistic bullies. So I think these are two separate things, actually. And why are women reacting negatively to this? I thought women like being out of the workforce and saying, "Oh, it was a horrible atrocity," and then put it on them against their will. It's just a power dynamic, and also it's different people doing it. What's wrong with men playing reparations for being oppressed in the same way? True. And every data point about struggling young men is always discussed in the vacuum as if it suddenly happened, like weather or earthquake. It has nothing to do with the policies that are literally designed to fast track women into professional jobs for the past few generations. And I'm going to be honest, I would never be
But how?
the biggest Democrat support for shit. Some Republicans. And it's a huge problem. It's a massive problem. And good, sure, we have boyfriends on next door. I didn't say that. I would agree with this. But anyway, so this is what and they've got no problem patronizing talking like this. And the problem is that these women are actually right. They are. It shouldn't be like this, but it is. And it's just getting worse and worse and worse. I'll look at a few more posts about this. I will. Trump's just watching this and being a complete person he is. He's being a massive, gigantic pussy. And it's so fucking embarrassing. It makes me mad. Every day I see some post about him getting mad about something and not doing anything. It makes me fucking furious. And if you have a negative or positive for the opposite gender, women, 21% negative. That is insane, as I said. Holy fucking shit. And so anyway, let me go back over here. And where is it? Oh yeah, here's another one. University leaders warn Australia faces a generation of lost boys as young men increasingly fall behind in education and employment opportunities. And the reason why is that again, it's because there are advantages that are created explicitly for women that men don't have access to. That's the main problem. This is by design. If you remove all the guardrails, if you took away all the guardrails, all 99 out of 100, probably higher than that, 999 out of 1,000. This is just the way it is. Everyone says women already made up 57% of the student body, but it wasn't enough. Women are never satisfied until they have 100% of the opportunities. It's not women. It's just it's people. This is the problem: is that and the West has inoculated itself around false accusations of bigotry. The reason why this continues to be a problem is that people don't understand how to ignore accusations of bigotry. And whenever something like that is leveraged in a way that's not true or inaccurate, what they do instead of actually listening to and trying to like take it seriously or not, they just immediately apologize. They say, "Oh, okay, well I guess I'm wrong because they're calling me this word." So basically, Westerners have become completely caught by like words. That's what's happening. We can't very fast because men have a hard time to do something about it. Well, that'll only happen whenever men decide to do that, right? And hopefully it doesn't come to that. That'll be beautiful. And I don't think that I think there's still not time to turn things around. But I do want to say that all right. How do you guys feel about this zone? Like you got the nice vista for like the open shore and everything. I think at least 121 empty oil tankers are making the way to the U.S. as of right now. There was that kind of wild conspiracy theory looking video about maybe Trump is losing the war on purpose so we can make the entire planet more dependent on American resources. And it almost seems like that's exactly what happened. I'm not saying it was prophetic or he did this on purpose, but it seems like this is
All right, let's see what's going on in the world today. See what Trump and them have been up to since the whole oil crisis, oil tanker thing with the Strait of Hormuz.
what's happening. A ship tracking firm reports 121 empty oil tankers are making their way to the United
Wait,
States.
what? 121 empty oil tankers are headed to the U.S. Oh shit! Oh shit! 15 million barrels.
Also said that we're going to start blocking the Strait of Hormuz. The funny part is, Iran can do it all the time. Everybody's going to say, oh, it's wartime, like we're going to try to negotiate. America says, hey, we're going to block the Strait of Hormuz. And all of a sudden, the ground. Who's hiring what? Yeah. Well, they would have
Well, you know, when you've been in power too long, right? You've been the number one country for too long, then other countries start feeling a type of way, and they'll do what people do. If they can't win, they don't want you to win. That's it. That's just 21st century nature, 21st century human nature. If I can't win, you can't either. And if I can't stop you from winning, I'm going to say talk as much crap about you. That's why I feel like when people like talk about the president or presidents, whichever what I'm saying, from president to president, it seems it happens every single time that exact way. Like, I can't stop you from winning, but I can post a whole lot about how much I hate you. Mm-mm.
They can find the minds they laid themselves. The Strait of Hormuz wonder how Iran's missing mind maps are accidentally keeping the Strait closed. As the mess of the Strait of Hormuz right now, back in early 2026, Iran's Revolutionary Guard rushed to strike this narrow waterway into a massive money. They need to push back in order to find that exact. I think we dismantled or sold our minesweeping fleets, and then also destroyed it as well. So nobody really has the capability to do it as of right now. But it has AI as a channel name, but also is it 100% AI generated? To the New York Times, one of the strategic masterstroke, people panic. Under pressure, IRGC teams were throwing explosives before. They were so focused on blocking Western warships that they didn't bother to record, coordinate, or lay them in any kind of traceable pattern. Which makes me wonder, was this operation done by Iranian leaders that have since passed away? They saw the last 40 of them get blown up, and then they knew, okay, let's keep us getting blown up now. So if we can't have it, we're just going to make certain that nobody can use the Strait of Hormuz, which is, yeah, that's all it is. And I'm not saying I believe in WMDs existing again. I'm not saying this is yet another reason why we wouldn't necessarily want them to have it. If you just lock the door, they roll it shut. That nature made worse. The current administrator brutal. If these mines snap, they could slam into a passive tanker and trigger a total catastrophe. Everything explosive turning the world's most important ship and land into a game of Russian roulette. And if that accidentally blew up some ship over there, no matter what country's ship it was, nobody's going to believe it was an accident. There's going to be conspiracy theories everywhere.
Yep.
Today, and it might be way back into the water. About 20% of the world's oil is now trapped behind a wall and a long boat that can't take it down. Kind of smart that we took Venezuela before we started trashing Iran. And if we're not the ones that are actually reliant on Iranian oil, it's our enemies, Russia and China. It kind of feels like this was before the test they were talking about. So it is, I don't know, the Strait of Hormuz. It's a massive global choke point, handling roughly 20% of the world's daily oil supply. But the IRGC has a new strategy to pay $2 million to hold crypto. But how do you actually pull that off, especially when the Navy has just lost more than 55 warships? The answer is simple. Exactly. Keep on saying Iran no longer has a Navy. We bombed all of Iran's naval ships. Iran now doesn't have a Navy. It's like I thought they were all going like the Navy one. How come they keep on finding new ships? Bring back World War II style tactics. Enter the mosquito. Instead of relying on massive target destroyers, the IRGC Navy uses a swarm of fast, mature attack craft. We're talking about incredibly quick, small fiberglass boats, classes like the Ashura, the Turek, and heavily modified Doghammer speedboats. But how do these speedboat attack U.S. warship? Islamic Revolution.
What do you mean how? They just fly up to that mode because warships are big and slow.
Rockets and ammunition. The tactic is simple, but deadly. Instead of trying to fight U.S. destroyer one on one, dozens of small boats simultaneously. Staying with the IRGC intel strategy that is planning is dead man walking. I don't really know what that strategy right now. It's just desperation mode, like right in the corner. I don't think it's a strategy. I think it's just, they still have a religious fundamental leadership group, so it's just they're gonna go into the very end. Opposed to overwhelm the U.S. ships and the foreign strikers more target. The ship can track and destroy at once.
Well, it's not true.
They actively deploy this craft. The untrained guys, these look like everyday fishing battles with commercial falling like terrorists. I mean, secretly outfitted for cover military ops. How exactly they training those bombers headed to the line? Since they are dedicated large-scale mine layers, finding high-tech automated track systems. Their methods are incredibly low-tech. That Iran is maybe that's written only as 50 ships compared to 300 for the U.S. Let that sink in. The U.S. is the only defense in the Western world. Exactly. I'm no fan of this leadership, top to bottom, is like, wait, we're fighting a war on our own. We want NATO's assistance, and you're saying you can't use your landing strip. You can't fly over our country. Why are we paying for your safety? Why are we supplementing it? And why are we giving NATO all this stuff if you're not going to help us get our missions done? Or be effective? When we pull out of NATO, none of these European countries are going to be able to have all their socialist ideals. They're not going to be able to have free healthcare, whatever their face can provide. They're going to need to defend themselves from these Russian, Middle Eastern countries. The American taxpayer should not be on the hook. This is to protect them. And I'm a big fan of this newfound knowledge that everybody's doing for a moment. But in a tech bottleneck, the straightforward
Tax radius, we've seen more. More leak-free carriers than other campus. They gently expand the bit. Here's how to reward radius companies deal with it. And it comes from risk. Get one. Get radius. Get more. Ask your doctor if ACO is right for you. Still catching up on your ads from last year? Get back on track with your business finances with Zero. With Zero, your invoices and payment providers are automatic, including your average payment time size. Zero includes your bank, payment processors, and business apps. All of your financial data is organized and updated.
it usually comes down to sheer drop method. The minds are simply strapped to the back of a small boat. Once they get their target coordinates, the crew literally just rolls or pushes these massive explosives right off the stern and there's no wall for some of the slightly large basic metal rails to help slide them off, but really that's about it. This parabolic setup is absolutely perfect for hit and run tactics. The whole strategy relies on speed itself. A small speedboat can dart right into the shipping lane, hide under the cover of darkness, or just blend in with regular civilian traffic. They drop 2 or 3 mines in a matter of seconds and then float back to the sea area and coastline, long before heavy U.S. warships can lock on them. And correct me if I'm wrong, guys, are we starting to realize that super carriers are outdated in modern warfare with drones with those tiny little fiberglass ships? I kind of feel like, yeah, we have the most super carriers, but if it comes to something like Hades hit with a massive earthquake or Japan has a tsunami, yeah, you want a super carrier over there to provide that much aid, like a space worth of aid in one week. But are they obsolete? Kind of, right? We need them for air superiority, but we keep, but they keep on talking about the Frog Island. We take it. We have air superiority, but it's like we can't stop a billion drones from coming over there and attacking if we don't have some sort of, I guess the anti-drone technology would be like an EMP, but wouldn't shut off the aircraft carrier as well. Again, I don't know. It seems like unless we carry massive amounts of Canadian drones, it's obsolete. That's what I think where China gets a whole bunch of cargo ships off the coast of Los Angeles by Long Beach. One of them has a billion drones in it. Why would you build an aircraft carrier that is obviously carrying that? We have laser weapons. Fiber optics are not vulnerable to EMP, so it had to be something else. And the weapons themselves. These little boats are tapping into an estimated Iranian stockpile of anywhere from 2 to 6,000 devices. They drop everything from simple contact mines, float near the surface and explode on impact with bad bottom mines. They'll just stay to the shallow sea floor and just wait, patiently listening to detonating the second they detect the acoustic signature of a massive submarine. How the U.S. is using their preemptive capabilities to cut us exactly violating ships. This is strategy 1. Instead of waiting for the mine to hit the water, which would force dangerous mine clearance operations right under enemy fire, the U.S. took action first. We struck the vessel before they could move forward. The textbook preemptive denial strategy: destroy the enemy's means of attack before they ever get the chance to use it. Here comes strategy number 2: intelligence through precision targeting. This strike wasn't a gap. It was the director's of highly actionable intelligence on a long operation plan. The U.S. layered signal intelligence from RC-135, maritime surveillance from key size ships dropping over the line. So almost things like they kind of love it, right? But I guess if we wanted them to block the straight home moves, 40 chess, they block the straight home moves, we block the straight home moves. Finally, oil from America or Venezuelan crude that we only we can process and that we can provide some freedom to Cuba so we had more straight only too. I mean, I'd like to think this was a game of 40 chess to allow this to occur, but it kind of seems like we tried and we failed. Exactly respectful for the mind layers where they were parked and exactly it was vulnerable. That brings us to strategy number three, striking vessels while moored. Most of these targets were actually docked at the time of the attack. Hitting a stationary ship is infinitely easier, safer, and more precise than hunting down a target out in the ocean. Plus, it completely eliminates the risk of this shot causing an unintended international incident in a heavy traffic strait. Strategy number four is the dual target docking. By hitting both the mine laying vessels and the mine storage facility at the exact same time, the operation guarantees that even if replacement boats were available, there wouldn't be any ordnance left to arm. It's a layered approach designed to maximize the strategic impact of a single coordinated operation. The U.S. didn't just use one weapon, they threw the entire playbook at the speed. They used Hellfire missiles fired in drones against small boats, and launched long-range cruise missiles from Navy destroyers right off the coast. If they finished the job, heavy strategic command bombers dropped massive 2,000-pound and GPS-guided bunker busters to wipe out the boats while they were still sitting in their storage facilities. I guess they didn't win, but then the strait is still cold, so it's almost the U.S. Central Command come back from this for a Hellfire missile engaging enemy mine-laying vessels. Pausing on the still image confirms its identity as a Hellfire, the ammunition frequently deployed from this M2-9 super drone. This vessel is one of 16 destroyed by this type of munition. It underscores a crucial point. Understanding how these small missiles operate is key to understanding how they turn the tide of a conflict and destroy small missiles with small drones. Allowing the missile guys to predict where the boat will be and adjust its flight path to its target. Speed and maneuverability matches. Hellfire missiles travel at speeds greater than normal, over 760 miles per hour, 1,225 kilometers. He said, didn't we train dolphins for this? I unironically was thinking the same thing. I'm like, where are these mind-sweeping dolphins? Was that a lie? Others were how? Which far outpaces the speed of the boat. This allows the missile to quickly close the distance and make fine adjustments during flight to strike the target. The missile guidance system is designed to compensate for evasive maneuvers by tracking the dolphin. No, I think that's just because they said the mines are detecting the acoustic signature of a boat coming nearby. The dolphin is just, they just cut through the water. How come they can't deploy these guys who was alive? Well, to this point, USAID, omnibus technically all the time. Like, oh, but again, we guys, we're going to train dolphins. We're going to get real high. We're going to give them mine diffuse little kits. Like the Ninja Turtles on the Nintendo 1. It's going to be great.
On the Nintendo One. Even the NES. The Nintendo One, quote unquote, was the NES, the Nintendo Home Entertainment Center or system. Sys- yeah, system. But everybody back then had a home entertainment center full of speakers and all kinds of stuff built in because there wasn't no 4K flat screen 70-inch plasma 8K 2200 megahertz TV floating around out there. They still had tubes back in the day, but them speakers would thump. Them home entertainment centers would thump though, and they would thump you if you ran by there and clipped your toe on that mug. Ooh. How many times me and my cousins ran by the entertainment center and hit our big toe or pinky toe? Ooh, man, I thought I broke my pinky toe a couple times. I heard that mug crack. I was like, oh, that's over with. I hit the floor. I said, that's over with, man. That's over with. She said, I told you about running through my house. I was like, you're right. You was right, Nana. You right. This sucks. Ow. Ah, it's funny because I see my kid doing the exact same thing, and I don't even say nothing no more. I let it happen, and then I go, And what did we learn? What did we learn? We're not going to do what next time? We're going to walk, right? But like, my kid is funny because she be getting in car wrecks when she be running through the house. That's how clumsy she is. She gets in car wrecks. She don't just hit something and fall down. She gets in whole car wrecks. I'm talking about she hit something, then the couch is moving, everything's coming off the couch, cushions flying, toys are flying, she's flying, because she be zooming. She's like a cheetah, bro. It's so crazy. Cause I don't think I'm that fast. I'm pretty quick, but I don't think I'm that fast. You know, there's a difference. Oh, how games used to look in 2009. Yeah, it's the crazy part. Ever since video games started coming out in 2009, 2010, if you look at games in 2009, 2010, you look at games right now that's coming out, they don't look very different. They don't look very different. And that's the crazy part. So what have these developers been dumping their money into, Tree color, foliage, while the games get worse and worse. Just in case. All the time. Unreal Engine 5 is like the biggest flop in game update history. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna be using Unreal Engine 5 and it's gonna look like this, and it just shows that one clip of the game in Unreal Engine 5 where they're just moving that one particular direction. But then you play the game and it's just like there's glitches everywhere. You can fall through the map real easy. You can get glitched into trees or building corners. Like, I'm going for the King's route this time. I forgot to change the route before I started. Yeah. Although I could have just loaded in my other run set. Uh, yeah. From like uh from like Crash Bandicoot to like Grand Theft Auto 3. Like that was a big jump.
if it's just the way that things are. But man, growing up with that was just fucking insane. Well known havoc physics was not involved by the endpoint. It was sewn into the render, so objects reacted not according to the script, but rather according to the real mass and momentum. That is why the physics in the game, for which havoc was responsible, felt so progressive, smooth, and realistic. Even dynamic light affected dust particles in the sky in Half-Life 2 was rendered as a separate layer that took into account atmospheric absorption. A small detail, but it did mark the beginning of the era of realistic global illumination. And at the same time, the game ran smoothly on video cards that today would not even run Steam. The source was so flexible that Valve ended up using it for another 15 years. They used it for Portal, Left 4 Dead, CSGO, and even for Play. The answer survived an entire era, simply because its architecture was originally designed for scaling and technical development of video games, not just marketing. A few years after the release of Half-Life 2, Crytek tried to repeat the explosive effect they got from the first Far Cry. At that time, the team developed their own engine just for demonstration purposes. CryEngine 1 was supposed to show that it look at that.
Yeah, look at that. That's what it was supposed to be, bro. Mind blown. I remember. Yeah, I remember in like 2009, 2010. Yeah, bro. It's crazy. I remember back in like 2004, 2005 when those games came out. Holy crap, bro. I was just like, when Far Cry came out, I was like, what is happening? Why does it look so real? And then Crisis. Oh my gosh. Oh, Crisis. Crisis was a whole crazy jump.
In simple terms, the same object in the game has several versions. Look at that. What year did this game come out at?
Crisis 2009. No, wait. The first one came out in 2007. Crisis 2 came out in 2009. Crisis 3 came out. I think Crisis 3 came out in 2010. I think. I mean, it's on the Xbox market. You can go look at it, or just search it. Man. You know, I don't remember exactly, but it was fun. I remember that.
There's no way.
That's why I won't buy it for my current gen and play it again because I just don't feel like buying it. I still remember it, although I might buy it. I don't know. I might end up buying it at some point. It's cheap, I know. It's just I tell you what though, if they put the Medal Honors games back on there, like Frontline and the other ones, oh, I'll play them. Like the good Medal, it's like Ghost Recon too. Y'all remember Silcom? Silcom Navy SEALs? What happened to that game? If you got a PlayStation, put it in the comments. Is Silcom on y'all's um store list? Silcom Navy SEALs.
Phenomenal.
Meanwhile, Rockstar was working to prove the opposite, that an open world could be compact and stable rather than cumbersome. The renderware engine used in GTA 3, Vice City, and San
Mm-hmm.
Andreas
See?
revolution.
Yeah.
The city was
Bro, I
divided
remember when Grand Theft Auto 3 came out, you can just do whatever you want. You can crash in other cars. Everything had damage. Everybody was walking around, moving and grooving, doing their own thing. It was crazy. Because before that, it's like everything was super linear. There was no freedom. You couldn't do anything. Like,
was like a huge selling point. And this is one of the things that like a lot of younger people, like let's say you're like 21 right now, this entire paradigm might seem weird to you.
yeah,
But like back then, people bought games for the graphics because something like that was just completely unthinkable. And if you want to know how recent it was, think about the fact that Ten Commandments, the old movie with Charlton Heston, won an Oscar for special effects. And go back and watch it. I think it
Oh God.
That's how fast things evolve.
Yeah,
For the PS2,
he's not wrong.
the same principle was adopted by Ubisoft and Bethesda, and it was with renderware that the era of the seamless world began. By the way, this engine was super versatile. It worked well on dozens of platforms and several different
Renderware.
engines, and the games created
Yeah,
on it are still a classic memory
all the
and still
games that
outlive most games from
renderware.
the era.
You just see it. You already knew you was gonna get some good
These
stuff.
engines were not better than modern ones in the general
Like
sense. They simply worked according to a clear technical task and allowed games not only to function normally, but also to develop both technically and in terms of gameplay. Developers didn't just take the ready-made universal tools of these engines, but adapted them to different tasks and technical challenges, thereby constantly expanding the boundaries of what a video game can show That's
That's
insane.
player.
But
Oh,
years
fuck.
went by, and now everything looks a little different in the industry. How did engines created for progress turn into a barrier? Why did new games, instead of pushing the boundaries, often repeat the same technical mistakes? And most importantly, how did it happen that with more powerful hardware, we get less stable games? Uh,
exactly.
I think that there's like 10 reasons why. I think
First of
that
all,
half
the
of them
first one is there's
are
too many people working on
technological
these
and
projects at
half
one
of them
time.
are systematic.
You only need half of the amount of people that they have in these giant studios working
And
on
then
these games.
also,
Like for instance,
like
Call of Duty
prove
or
like how fast
Halo or
companies make
whatever.
games now.
Like
Well, no, you can't say these
you have
guys
too many
are
people trying to make one
technically
game.
honest
When you
components,
have too many
but I
people,
think it's
it's
unfair
too
to
many
say that
different ideas
that
that don't make one clear picture for what the
that
game is
it's
supposed
the
to
same
be.
as like what
So all
happened
you
with
end up
Marvel
with
and
is a
Netflix.
clusterfuck of different
Marvel
ideas
still had a
stuck
decent
inside of
stand,
or stuck
yet
behind
so the
a
studios
picture of
genuinely don't care.
somebody
They
with a
don't
gun
care to invest that much
and a
time and
name.
money into it because it doesn't matter.
That's it. Because I guarantee you, if it looked like if Call of Duty looked like what it does, right, and it had a different name, like let's say Delta Force, right? Let's say we take Delta Force and Call of Duty and swap the title names in the pictures. How many people you think is going to download Delta Force that with a swap picture of the Call of Duty on it compared to Delta Force, compared to actual Call of Duty with the Delta Force picture? How many people you think is going to switch? I guarantee you, it'll fool half the player base. I guarantee it. They'll be like, "Oh, Call of Duty, though, what? Huh? Call of Duty done went back to its roots on this one," and that's half the player base right there. Because I mean, we've been waiting on a more based Call of Duty type game since Modern Warfare. Like all the crazy skins is just it's funny, but that's it. Like you don't need all those skins. It's a military game
Today it has
through and
become
through. It's a
much easier
military
for
game. You
developers to
shoot and
release
kill people.
multiple
That's your
games
job.
at
That's the
hardware
whole
and at
point
a reasonable
of
cost,
booting up the
so
game.
they optimize that your PC
So
makes
I
it
mean,
harder to
need
access
to
games
see
that you
Nicki
like.
Minaj. I don't need to
Playing games
see
from different
the
authors
baby. I
is
don't need to
also fun,
see
but you can't expect
Travis
that from
Porter. I don't need to
every
see
engine ever again.
Travis Scott. I don't need to
This is a
see
level of complexity that is
you
almost
know
impossible to master. So
Avatar: The
whether
Last
it's new
Airbender.
generations of games or types of
You know
games,
what I'm
right
saying?
now when the market is overflowing with studios and projects
I
appearing
expect to see some
across
type of
each
warrior
gen, like in
from a different
complexity,
culture, nation, different time
a market
period.
has turned
Like one
unpredictable.
thing I found that was really cool, right?
What
In
might be
like Black
powerful
Ops or
technology
Black Ops
could
2,
just
they
delete
released a
the entire
character
part.
that
Real
was
engines
it was
don't
the
just compete with
ancient
technology. They
uh
display their very engineering instinct.
the
Whether they
ancient
use AI or humans, modern developers don't need to build an LOD system because it cares
uh
of androids. They don't need to
leopard
work with lighting because there's lighting.
leopard
They don't need to
warriors,
think about how to produce the
the
light
ancient
because they
leopard
just do
warriors
everything
from the
themselves. This
Amazons.
only comes down to
Like
game theory. In
or
practice, everything
maybe
is
from just
just
South America. Maybe it's from South
so
America.
what he said
Anyways,
basically is that Unreal 5 has allowed
yeah,
developers to
like
buy
that was a
code
skin. Like I was
without
like, yo,
dropping
that's
the
cool.
biggest gaps in
Cause
code.
like he had the
That's
leopard
what
head
everyone is trying to do.
garment, he had the pants garment, but they weren't pants. Like that was the actual garment, like that they wore way back then. And he had a gun belt strap and all that on his chest, and that was the skin. It wasn't nothing crazy, and everybody bought it, and they only charged $3 for it.
Top-of-the-line PCs and put on optimizations for weaker ones to build later. But that's the problem. example of
It's like
optimization
my
is
whole
they
thing
sound like
is
that's the
if
very
you're making a
thing
game about
that
shooting,
is kingdom come to life.
the characters
I've heard
that come
people
out, the
complain
patches,
that like
the
1080 or
whatever, the
1080 Ti,
voices, the voice actors,
that's
all everything should lend
and
credence
I
to
do hope that like I wish
it
that
being a
like
military
I wish that
type
movie would add in
situation,
a category in the Game
if
Awards
that makes
for
sense.
best optimized game.
Like
Maybe
again,
I should do
I
that.
don't need
You
to
know, like,
see
hey, I've got an idea.
rappers
Yo,
and
I've got an idea. I've got this idea.
aliens
Maybe for an
and
award show.
unicorns
Like that would be
while
sweet.
I'm trying
But
to
I feel
play
like
a
there
military
needs to
game
be a small incentive
because
for people to
it
design
messes with the
and
whole
at
game.
least
It
have
messes
at
with
least
the
some
whole
acknowledgement for that incredible level of optimization.
how the game is going to be taken. It messes with all that. It messes it
And
up.
it itself created a culture where, wait a minute, yeah, Monster Hunter Wild, remember how good that was? It became
Now,
part of the
Warzone is
culture
like an
when they
exception because
wrote that
Warzone is just
into
its own thing. It's
that
supposed to be a
franchise. And I
hodgepodge
think, well,
of
guess
all
what?
the different
It was
games.
chaos. And this chaos is profitable. Every game on Unreal is another project tied to the Epic ecosystem. Studios receive grants, integrate Epic online services, I don't know, pay tribute to Epic Games, and ultimately become dependent on the
I
cheap
mean, I think
platform.
with Warzone, they
Great.
should add like
That's
team
why
deathmatch and like
2025
the
is
game
seeing a
modes
new type of development.
just
The
for
engineers, but simply a
and
year
get rid of
ago,
the skins off the
first
actual base
so
games
people can
like Modern
imagine
Warfare
the
3,
ecosystem
Black Ops
that
7, Black Ops
creates
6.
their game
Like, get rid of
library.
those crazy
What
skins
may
off
not
of there.
work well
Leave all the
elsewhere
military skins, get
should
rid of the
be
other ones,
attached from
and put them
Epic.
on Warzone.
This actually kind of reminds me about
And then give Warzone,
like
you
how many of
know,
you guys,
PvP
your dad
game
explained
modes,
more about
all
cars
the
than you do.
PvP game modes. So
And
they don't
I
have
think
to
that's really
play
awesome. And I
just
think that
Warzone. They can log
people
in
have to
and play
understand that.
multiplayer with those
And so,
skins
now
without
I think
disturbing the player bases that actually
I
come
think
to
about
play
this that
military type
like back
games.
in the day, like if you're around my age, you remember
It's
like
super
people
easy
pushing
and
a
simple.
gaming
So I don't
career.
understand
You had to have a certain level of technical
what don't
knowledge. You
uh
had to understand
what
how
don't you get through there.
graphics worked, especially because like there weren't pre-built factories that were just printing these fuckers out all the time. So you probably had to figure out how to install a graphics card, how to put in more RAM, which means that you had to get a new power supply, which meant that the power supply won't fit inside the motherboard. And so you learn these
Yep.
things. And I think in the
It's
same
called
way,
mod order.
cars have become a lot
Yeah.
more streamlined, and our generation is the victim of the optimization of
I
cars,
was hitting
then the
the
future
training
generation of
items
people
and it
now
hit
are
training
the
down here
victim of the
somehow.
optimization of electronics and computers. And I think probably the same thing's happening with game design. Is that the same people, the people that wrote the ancient magic and COBOL, a lot of those guys are on social
Cobalt.
security now, so they're outside of the industry, and they build such good mechanisms that the people now that are making computers and making games, they don't need to worry about this. They don't need to even think about it. So, like, what is the understanding? Like, okay, well, your car's making this sound. Okay, well, maybe that might be the carburetor. Well, you don't need to know that anymore because you can just plug in a machine and the machine will give you an error code because the engine can self-diagnose itself in most cases. So, like, think about the amount of, information that you just simply do not need anymore. And I think that's basically what's happened. I think this has happened with a lot of things. And I think that it's happened, by the way, with everything. Like, if you ask a boomer, I'm sure a boomer would tell you that their grandparents or their dad probably said the same thing about another piece of technology. And so I think
Hmm.
this is just how things evolve. What about Expedition 33? They don't even know how to make games. Well, I mean, I think that there's all. Remember what I said about how there are structural reasons? One of the structural reasons is bad management, unreasonable deadlines, and a
Too
lack of
many
focus.
employees.
And I
Yeah.
think Sandfall didn't have those
Too many
problems,
employees
and so they
causes
were
the
able to
lack of
deliver a good
focus.
game because of it. In my opinion,
When you're making one project, too
right?
many people on one project causes a lack of focus. Because then the ideas start getting split. Then other people start coming up with new ideas when there's already a proven idea that everybody's working towards, and it bleh, total mess. That's why in school they never put y'all in giant groups or projects. You only got one partner or maybe 2 to 3 other partners. Never bigger than a group of 4, right? Remember that. There's a reason for that. And it's exactly what I'm talking about.
with that, but the way
And
that
that is the problem with video games today. Is that exact same problem. And we learned it in elementary school.
even for free games,
But you know what the problem is? Common sense ain't common no more. So even though it's common sense, and it definitely makes sense, a lot of people don't use it. Why is that? I can't tell. I can't give you the answer to that one. All I can say is people don't use it. People don't use their noodles sometimes.
anyway. After all, it basically killed itself because, and here's the issue, right? Is that like whenever you're operating as a business, you can't make decisions based off of like, that's a decision that would placate people that are like players of like an MMO. But the issue is that whenever you're talking about like making a change like that and announcing it, if you have a person who's building a company and building an entire brand through this engine, well, you can't like the level of trust that you need to have has to be way higher. And Unity broke that trust. They did. They broke the trust. And now you've got what's happened is that Unity's basically dead. And Unity being dead, or not, it's not basically dead, but like I think the amount of usage of it probably declined massively, and I don't think it's recovered. At least that's my guess. And it's a bad thing. Not because Unity was great, but because there's an ecosystem of competing competing products. The moment that you lose the ecosystem of competing products is the moment that you start having a bad time. The moment that one company starts having quality degree and everything else when you nearly stop. I don't know. Unity and Unreal are not competitive. They are two different manifestations of the same problem. We can see how this human brutality and monopoly negatively affect the entire gaming industry. But now we can see that there is another way, one that has overused 10 to 15 years ago. Study data from Frostbite, and that was something that shows that a proprietary engine has a specific goal to produce beautiful graphics with large scale destruction of the entire map while delivering incredible optimization. And I think that another component of this too is that a lot of these engines are not from the ground up. A lot of them are forged from CryEngine or from other engines that do exist that were then used to, basically be a more fine-tuned version of what the developer needed. The game literally runs at 60 FPS on a 10-year-old graphics card. That's insane. I don't like seeing this video. How many times did I die in that? Like that exact beautiful games in the graphics this year was also created on the steel
Skill issue. Yeah.
the Japanese, they love their own proprietary. They do. They love. Yeah, they still make their own engines a lot more than I think Western developers do. Plenty of possible to do on Unreal. Supermassive mode adjustability and graphics that are truly next gen. Casino is an example of good old fashioned, highly specialized engineering without the time to adapt the engine to all possible scenarios. And in fact, I want to believe that in the future, developers and studios will return to their own engines more often, treating them to their own needs. I understand that this may be more difficult, but it's complexity and painstaking. I actually find that to be unlikely. I find that it will be unlikely. I think that bad optimization will just be seen as a larger component of game quality, and you're not going to see people go back to using different engines. I could be wrong, but that's not what I would predict. We're always great places to keep it that.
Well, I hope this works.
I'm gonna link it to you guys. How modern game engines rated was. I think there's a lot of. And I'm a big fan of Unreal 5, but I think that these points about how because Unreal 5 is a Swiss Army knife, anything we use it, we have. Oh shit! Iran just ordered its military to break the U.S. blockade.
George H.W. Bush, Iran's interior minister, ordered the governors of border provinces to neutralize the threat of a naval blockade. President Trump warned Iran's fastest action they would be blown up if they approach any U.S. ships involved in the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. So there appears to be a standoff.
Yes.
The Navy has 18 warships right now in the Middle East, including the USS Tripoli, which has Marines on board who can carry out search and seizure operations at sea.
We're going to get to the part. Nobody wakes up today. Iran just ordered its military to break the U.S. blockade.
George H.W. Bush, Iran's interior minister, ordered the governors of border provinces to neutralize the threat of a naval blockade. President Trump warned Iran's fastest action they would be blown up if they approach any U.S. ships involved in the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. So there appears to be a standoff.
Yes.
The Navy has 18 warships right now in the Middle East, including the USS Tripoli, which has Marines on board who can carry out search and seizure operations at sea as ships that left Iranian ports for Saturday with grace. The USS Michael Murphy and USS Frank E. Peterson, two guided missile destroyers, entered the strait this weekend to begin studying conditions for clearing mines.
Sometimes the Major Admiral Brad Cooper explained the impact of his move, saying, quote, a blockade everyone in ports has been fully implemented as U.S. forces maintain maritime superiority in the Middle East. An estimated 90% of oil's economy is fueled by international trade. By daylight collapse in 36 hours. Since the blockade was implemented, U.S. forces have completely halted economic trade going into and out of Iran by these guys. Iran now responded to the blockade with the IRGC threatening to target any U.S. ships in the area. Iranian president put that guy in a slightly different tone.
There is now a problem in the Persian Gulf, and the world is thrown into turmoil.
Yeah, but in response to that,
The world, people are dissatisfied and have raised their voices. But we ourselves are in the midst of this turmoil, and despite all these pressures, our work is progressing properly.
yeah, we have caused turmoil by launching missiles in countries like our neighbors that aren't even involved in this thing. Oh, no.
In the first 24 hours of the Hormuz blockade, no ships from Iranian ports made it past our
It's done.
6 merchant vessels tried, and they returned around. If a ship doing business with Iran gets anywhere near the blockade, Navy SEALs will board it, and run to the captain's head, and turn it around.
Wow.
The Wall Street Journal reports that 20 commercial ships passed through peacefully into the Persian Gulf.
No way.
And when Iran spread that number was 0. And Iranian ships aren't allowed to spin in Iran. CENTCOM says we have over 12 warships, 100 fighter and surveillance aircraft.
Their blockade of the Strait of Hormuz will totally backfired on them, and now it's the Iranians that are trapped inside, and if they try to do anything about it, well, I think we know what's going to happen.
10,000 service members out closing the blockade, including the USS Tripoli, are
is bullshit. It's currently positioned in the Arabian Sea with 3,500 sailors and marines on army, including the 31st Expeditionary Unit. They've been doing night jet shooting drills. And our F-35 stealth fighter jets were seen taking off from the Turkish. The 11th Marine Expeditionary Unit on board has been executing round-the-clock live-fire drills on the water. As their armed forces, it looks like they're getting ready to do something that the world has never seen before. Korea the Straits are closed. Make sure it's clear of mind, open up on the channels. We saw some of that going on this weekend. Next thing is secure and provide escorts for the ships that come through. And we would do that initially, and then eventually transfer that to allies and partners to take that over from us. CENTCOM's focus now is demining the strait. If there are even mines in the first place. Last week, the president called Iran blunt so far. We haven't found a single mine in the water. The strait with the Iranian blast started flag, and they're losing it. Our ships just went up the gut, and the moles didn't do a thing about it. We thought that they said if any U.S. strait is going to be over. The other day, this quarter went through it, nothing happened, and now this entire part of the globe under control of the United States, which is right there, whatever regime out there, never listen to a panic. Yes, sir. You'll do very well in life. Ignore the panicking. Right? They were the ones who wore the calamity in Venezuela. Yep. And ended up being one of the greatest single foreign policy, military, geopolitical maneuvers in the world. Right. And now it's happening again. We're watching now in Iran, the implementation of this blockade is a total resetting of the American power dynamic for the next 100 years. Wow. President Trump, we, the United States, have the world's most powerful military, most powerful navy. And whoever controls the seas is able to control the outcomes in any foreign policy showdown. That's why President Trump has put Iran in the box. He played the checkmate move. And so now, no matter what path Iran chooses, America wins. All they had to do was not go into these talks with some arrogant attitude that the United States is going to hold because gas prices were an extra $1 a gallon. And now not only is that about to get reversed, but the outlook for America for a long time is looking very good. Iran chooses the path of a deal, then that's great for the one that's great for everybody. Yes, it is. If Iran chooses the path of economic strangulation by blockade, then the world will pass Iran by. New energy routes will be established. New supply chains will be happening. Other nations throughout the region, throughout the world, and especially America, will power the world, and Iran will become a footnote. So that's the choice Iran has, and President Trump has put America into a win-win pot. And what most people don't know is that in the United States right now, we're gearing up to take total advantage of it. So if America has all this old water gas prices, so there's a question, it's a valid question, one that millions of Americans are asking, and one that I used to ask myself. And that gives us an opportunity to do and explain on America's refinery system. 6 years ago, when most of our refineries, we imported a lot of our crude oil from foreign countries. And through our refineries, especially those along the Gulf Coast, were set up to process a heavier crude oil than what we produce here in the United States. Now, through oil field innovation, the perfection of hydraulic fracturing technology, the shale revolution in America made us energy independent, and now we are the world's double one producer. That's why everyone has to buy it. We have solved a problem. Under President Trump, America is now bringing on more refining capacity so that we can process the crude oil we produce here in the United States. And that will deliver lower gas prices for all Americans for years to come. Right. So that's extra. Now, but it's going to pay off, and there's not a thing Iran can do about it. You know, they accuse the president of having no strategy, flying by the seat of his pants. Yeah. You look at Venezuela, you look at drill baby drill, you look what's happening with Iran and the Strait and now China. It's all Asia, the deals we cut with the Japanese and South Korea. It does look like there's a strategy to counter the Chinese and make America energy dominant. Why don't they accept that? If I can see it, well, they should be able to see it too. They don't want to. Because it's a total discredit to them. Judgment of the corrupt politicians chance to compete
Hmm.
against trade policy, energy policy, manufacturing policy, and yes, hard military power to ensure another century
Why
of
not? It's free
American
stuff.
wealth. And what's important for viewers to understand is our quality of life that we have in America is purchased by American strength. Yeah, the reason our GDP
Falcon, come for a visit, please.
of American strength.
Please.
That's why
Come say hey. Just a little bit.
enjoy the spread as ever before.
Just one turn. You know what I'm saying?
A proud, powerful, mighty nation. And you know what that means? That means no regime, no Venezuela, no Cuba, no Iran. When you get rid of those three, they're backers. Russia and
Yeah,
China,
this
they're
one's not pretty
backers
nice.
for any sphere from which is threaten us any longer. They don't have a regime in the Middle
Okay.
East. The threat is Israel and strangle the world economy. They can't do any of that stuff. And as you're about to see, they should have known this was coming. But just before we continue, it's time to have a quick chat about something I recently started using, and that would be Rumble wallets. If you've ever been curious about buying or investing in crypto, Bitcoin, stablecoin, USAT, or even gold-backed stablecoins, but felt like it was too complicated, don't worry, Rumble wallet is the easiest way to get started. You can buy, sell, and manage your cryptocurrencies all in one place, and the app is super straightforward. But what really makes Rumble wallet unique is you can tip your favorite creators like me and support the free first community built on Rumble. Getting started is simple. Just download the Rumble wallet app. Sign up to your existing Rumble account. No need for a new login. Complete a few security checks and you're set. You can start with just $50 and with MoonPay built into the Rumble wallet. You can easily buy crypto using your credit card, debit card, or even a bank wire. So if you've been thinking about the advantages of cryptocurrency, download the Rumble wallet today. You can find it in your app store or even the link right here on the screen. Will also be in the video description. It's wallet.rumble.com, where you can even click the QR code. Download Rumble Wallet today and put your assets where they belong, in your hands, under your control. Legal disclaimer: Rumble Wallet is a technology provider and not a custodial service. See terms at wallet.rumble.com.
They certainly the Iranian shut down the Straits of Hormuz and they got a ceasefire out of that. The war was stopped. That's kind of what they wanted. They wanted negotiation.
It's not like we're waiting.
Was the war stopped. It was they like that. And the president's national security team has certainly sometimes assessed that situation. This is the strength of the American military. We're very adaptable, flexible. If we see what the enemy does, and we suddenly switch plans and react accordingly. So you'll see that reaction. And clearly, what we've achieved is we're shutting down a long source of income. Period.
Yeah, that's done.
That is what is taking place before our eyes. That's economic warfare. And what is it given the administration? And so there's more leverage going into these negotiations than what they had the first time. That's the reality. I think the Iranians would make two miscalculations here. Yes, they shut the Straits of Hormuz down, and we have to find an economic and political price for that inside the United States. And yes, there was some pressure on the administration and on President Trump as a result of that. They went into those negotiations thinking this is going to be good for us because the administration is going to make some concessions to us because of that pressure. Well, that did not happen.
They thought they won.
And in fact, we stood on ground. The president was talking to his teams. I want everything. And they didn't get everything. And Iran had to go home with their tails between their legs and figure out what's the strategy.
They don't have a strategy. Their strategy was they're going to go into these negotiations with Vice President Vance. They're going to tell America, hey, look, this is what we want. These are our demands. We're going to hold them straight. Leave us alone. None of that happened. And now, with their ability to wage any sort of conventional resistance to any of this gone, they don't know what they're going to do.
Next, the other thing is, you have threatening, as usual, strong ritual, how they're going to interfere with what we're doing here in terms of this blockade, which is taking all of their revenue away. Well, if they're going to do that over the next 8 days, you know what's going to happen. We're back in full combat operations.
That's what that means.
They know that. We'll see if they're actually going to take that.
That would be stupid.
In terms of where we're going here, remember, this is phase one. The blockade, take their revenue away from them, and make certain that there is no ships going in, going out, dealing with Iranian oil.
If that happens, which is happening, they don't have the ability to last forever. And the way that these refineries and these oil producing nations work is they have a place to store the oil and they have a place where the oil comes from. If they're going to produce oil, they got to put it somewhere. And if they can't ship it out of their storage facilities, their entire economy is going to grind to a halt. All of that expensive extraction abilities they have, they're going to use that stuff or to break that stuff is not cheap. And not only is their economy going to crash in the short term, it may take a long time to rebuild if they don't surrender and step away and agree to give up their roots quickly.
How much of the other ships that are not involved in Iran at all the rest of those countries there that are distributing oil, are they going to fall through the straits? Are they still going to be, in their minds, are the owners of the ships still feel it's so dangerous to do that because of the Iranian threat that had existed and in their minds that it still exists? The United States military and the president are prepared for that reality. And if that doesn't open up, but certainly we'll see if it does, my judgment is it probably won't. And that brings in then the operation to open up the straits. And what the military mission is first clear it, take the mines out of there, make it secure, and then through that escort.
The United States is going to have to take the lead on that because people are going to say, hey, why am I going to send my ship into this area to get oil out of this part of the world? Why am I going to do that if the United States Navy is willing to go with it? You see, if the United States Navy is going to say that it's safe, they're going to get our feet in the trade, the U.S. companies are going to start fighting through the policy, and that's the system the U.S. has to be willing to back up.
With drones out around it and drones hundreds of miles away, picking up any missiles that are coming, same thing with aircraft, protect that entire transit through there. And that's a longer operation, and at some point, if we have to continue that operation, then we would turn it over to allies and partners.
Yep.
So there's really two phases to this.
And that would be Europe. At the same time, there are a record number of tankers coming to the United States right now to buy our oil. That's a great thing. 171 crude tankers are bound for the U.S. Gulf to load crude oil cargo. That's wild. The surging vessel traffic comes with nations throughout Europe and Asia grapple with energy supplies and prices skyrocketing. Germany is providing emergency fuel relief to citizens, while officials in the Philippines recently declared a national energy emergency, and the world looks increasingly to the U.S. as the place to replenish.
Give me something to drink. Drink break. Drink break. Drink break. Drink break. Drink break.
The Arab countries in the region don't participate in that as well. And I think there may be some Asian countries, but I'm not sure yet. There's some discussions with them in terms of participation.
Yeah.
And so, listen, we need help to do that. No doubt about it. And we've said that from the beginning. We can start it and make sure it's secure. And that's one of the things the other countries don't want to be involved in. And getting that security established. But we frankly do need some assistance to carry it on all the time.
Right. And it's only right that these other countries invest in getting oil from their own countries. You've got Europe, you've got the UK to import all of their oil, yet they don't want to come over here and make sure it gets there safely. That's weird. After their security and straightforward. These nations that don't want to spend any money because they don't have any money to spend projecting military force as the real secret. Europe, they can't afford their own defense. Once they don't need to anymore and they can come in and get this oil once the threat is pretty much neutralized, well, then they'll be able to do that. They'll be buying oil from the Middle East. They won't be supporting Iran. They can also buy oil from the United States. Many people are doing that right now. This is going to be a good thing for
months now.
I have to play now. What? Next year, see outside. Start passing the rock like a big flash. It's getting really hard. Like I said, authorities say they killed the drug kingpin known as Elementary, the leader of the Jalisco 8th generation cartel.
And Mexico made Jalisco Federation cartel from something that was not known to the most powerful drug cartel in the world.
I'm here with Cinco Latinoamerica. We just arrived to the house where they got Mincho. Windows are shot out. Everything is torn apart. It looks like the military came through the front, like the force area in front of the house, because it's all burned down. Some of it actually was driving by.
Now, you got a Ramsey race that's like supposed to run. You run over everything. 2024 Ramsey race final edition versus GNC and ACC, and they had no answers. They had no answers whatsoever for this race. Because this is why you own the T-Rex. You run over everything. When they boxed him in, he ran over the knee, ran into the grass, all over. And even when they got on the street, they couldn't keep up with him. That's because 14 superstar tailgating under the hood. He actually ran over a pedestrian, and I do mean that. I'm not being funny. Oh, he ran over somebody.
We got these blocks from them. I look around right now. Now, it's blocks, but she's special with truck. Yes, I agree. 40 miles an hour. All in the these blocks from them. I look around right now. Ow! Ow! Hey, I don't know. Ow! That's crazy because you actually act faster than me. Yeah, that's nothing. It was not that impressive. When students get out in the wild, something like these, they require great perfect reaction time. It did. At least not entirely. The physics of the game make that play completely feasible once you understand how it works. But the rabbit hole was much further. Fortress and retro cycles were the deepest strategy sports that ever heard of. Fortress each team has its own opposite side of the game. The objective, give more teammates inside the enemy zone that they have to contest. Although majority phenomena and the zone collapses, awarding a team points is the ending of the zone. Each team commonly splits up to defend the order of the attackers. And keep back the same players to help protect the zone. And that tension, pushing and pulling is what all of the strategies is. The controls are very simple, just left, right, range. But there is a catch. Every input costs. The only way to start is by drafting close with other players' job. So at the start of every round, people run a coordinated launch sequence on the front, where players try each other's balls to accelerate together. If you want a proper foundation before we think of the strategy, I've got multiple takeovers that start with zero and communicating clear feedback for our boss, right? So last time was like, I'm going to show you feedback. When the players go like 50% with slow or small sections on the environment, strategies you just have to pass through unless you're getting multiple teammates in one hole, like this as a great here, all the low hanging fruit zone. That being said, great spin plays you can pull off the whole effect. Like this one here. Caught up and grind and caught up and tunnel and so many people in small. Both go on the shot, error. This is the middle wall from the zone. You got your so fast and then you're set up the problem. And just like that, I'm in the zone that can back the right step. Another thing shot where we noticed that this guy was tracking back the laser. Starting more audible, just like the front. The whole take it anyway and manage before it needs to. I'm going to get my tunnel into the zone.
It's crazy.
Here's another snapshot play with the anti-sweepers fully anticipating that. You're just kind of hovering around that area on standby, waiting to deny our whole thing. I wrap around the back of here and there's my teammates still in the hall behind me. My other teammates occupying both sweepers. Because this was beautiful whatever, so we wait till in front of the defender. That way this hole will solve that effective snap. Hitting it back and getting it how we go. At this point, Gazelle and I were bringing so much heat that they felt the need to bring two sweepers over to the side. As soon as we noticed this, we both turned around and looked at the other side of the fortress. Our attention here is the hole, but one of these sweepers back back and then to the side. So we healed up both of them. Yeah, we took them down. To this thing, then I heard a massive player's forward shot on my line. No one expected this to have so much speed that he was able to round their team and breaking their gap before they even set up. When a player is eliminated in fortress, we are counted to the next round. So creating a hole requires a complete sacrifice to your own team. But sometimes, skipping ahead and doing the dirty work for you. When a player's protecting space is drawn with the outside their tail, spanning their area as they rotate. $250 in another store. A little found in the case of heading for 7 o'clock. So we also got this eye catching suit to distract from the fact that no, he's still not doctor. Ben tell us when they use just for men to eliminate gray, right before that. Then it's the applicant. That's who you get when you look at your best. And that's why more men choose just for men. At Chillin University, people and leaders rise to the moment. And probably because language is creative. We know because we're the number one largest nursing school in the world. Chillin University. Someone got the money to do the trick. Or behind it, shrinking down but making themselves harder to attack. Defenders compete for their span and there are no attackers to fall. This is I wanted to just go for pretend I'm going back to my own base, and then I glance back and check on the options that came up. In this case, it probably was, so I shot myself back and let it go. It's a more reliable way to get speed and catch people off guard, and it can work on anybody, not just the defendant. Wait a second. Like wondering how to make it around from there. This game is a mechanic called rubber. Think of it like pushing a balloon into a wall with your palm. Your hand gets closer and closer, you'll push too hard, and then pop. That's rubber, a replenishable buffer from the center of the wall. So here's where it gets interesting. If you push more rubber into a wall than the player next to you, it can actually fit the gap from making it. That's why this flip is actually not that impressive. Well, it's a pretty nice turn, and the rubber keeps being floated. Sure, it's coming from less impressive now, but rubber doesn't know what it's doing. It raises it. It turns plays that should be possible in plays that are. Skilled players will manipulate rubber to reach that without even holding. In this case, I invested all the rubber I had in my own wall right here. At this point, he tries to grab his own rubber from my wall to cut me off. But it's too late, I'm too deep, and I'm already in. Here's what that all looks like in real time. The action passes through this gap between the motorcycle and the rail called a cut. Cuts come in all shapes and sizes, but while we're on the top of the rubber, I want to cover one from the latter back. Named after an old play. Step one is to put a little bit of rubber on one of the feathers straight away. Step three, that's turn away the game. Step three, jockey your cycle goes close to the end of the defender's tail. Step four, stab more rubber into the wall and face it. And step five, shake and make. Oh my god. Wow. The geometry is actually the only one that knows what a frame perfect looks like. In Tron, the declared so precise, it eliminates every rubber investment in the wall. Pinpoint steel, line speed, and absolutely no margin for error. This is the table perfect turn. Oh, yeah. Oh, damn. I'm so angry right now. Every place you just watched was played by real people in a small community that found something special. A free, open source game that's been running for over 20 years. The physics feel unlike anything else, and the strategy never runs out. Retrospect
not, now you know what it is.
Right.
The new map was Taylor is that put the credit down on I'm gonna do it. But we had a rule that they call it the weak point. The first one is once you're in the base, you set another one anywhere in the map. But if one of those fails, gets done, or goes off, and it goes back to the is everybody ready? Yes! Wait, who's the voter bill? Yes, cause my next apartment. Oh, that's good to know. 560 right over here, boys. Gonna never let go and go, 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 go. Easy, easy, easy. And then stop, stop, stop. And then silence, silence. And then of the unit, we stick together, take the opposite out. Stop, stop. And that's what it means. It's the principle. I'm not gonna read that point right here. Yeah, put it down. Good, good, good. Then we go back. We go back. The principal driving me, and I wasn't appreciative of it, so I just pretty much go wrong. Take it easy, take it easy, boys. A lot of matches on this. A lot of matches on the line. I'm gonna go wrong, and stop. You're way too quick, way too quick. Take it easy, boys. Take it easy. Stop. Stop. Not anymore. Oh my God, am I alive? I don't know about sacred. This is natural. Look, this is how you put this second. We're gonna go over here and boom. I already made it. Start it done. Stop. Thank you. Stop. Thank you. Please stop. Beat it in my ass. Whoa! I need some space to leave. Table. No. Rainbow. Raise the ball. Raise the ball. Any second. Any second when you want. Okay? Stop in the space. Don't pull out. Don't pull out. Don't pull out. He doesn't want you to pull off. I'm stuck in your bumper. Stop. No, no, no. Oh, oh. Oh, yeah, we're making it now. Yo, that's you. Okay, just a quick, I made the back. You guys try to make it as quality as possible. I'm going to get on the bumper. What do you mean? Okay, all right. Oh, the game planning. Well, stop. Okay. After work, forward. Don't get the gun. That's me. And also, wait for my. We're going to hit you, bro. We never had more ways to get to home. Slow down, mid, measure, everything. Improve what happens. Come along the way. That's probably the worst year of refereeing I can remember. They're now taking over things that penalties, referees, foul calls, testing, all matches. It has been a long time since there was this much doubt. I have never been more convinced that a professional sport is rigged than I am right now. NFL is actually rigged. You're not crazy, and I have the math to prove it. The referees went to national championship. The league's heard the superior. And they made a decision. The problem is that fans don't trust the human when it's called or plays the human. We are seeing a rise of automated referees decisions. Baseball, soccer, football, and basketball. The leagues will win the human personal trust. Somehow, fans trust the game less than ever. How did that happen? What happened? Technology that tech sports starts to change our relationship too. Sports have never been perfectly efficient. Referees have always gotten called wrong. This isn't new. Everyone knew called wrong, and yet the game still stood. All moved on. And while getting called right is central to the job of being a referee, they're not just there to tell it as it is. They're there and argue. So that's someone whose job is to declare what happened and make a statement. The game can move forward. Not because everyone agrees, but because that's not the standard. Standard is that someone has the power to say, this is real, no we're moving on. And field arguing forever. Refereeing is a relatively modern invention. Early sports was self-initiated, gentlemen's agreements, players calling their own fouls. But as sports professionalized, as money increased, as crowds grew, as the games got bigger and bigger, self-regulation didn't work anymore. When there's a lot of money at stake, you can't ask athletes to call their own violations. Someone neutral had to step in, make sure the game was possible, and the rest of the crowd, the rest of the players, it was always adversarial. The umpire baseball was one of the most pathologized figures in the sport. Chesterton, Max, Yaz, the culture built this character because it needed someone to absorb the outcome. It gives someone for fans to yell. And that anger, the community around being angry at an umpire, at a referee, was not just a part of the culture, it was part of the product of being a fan. 1985 World Series still happened. The 1966 World Cup still happened. The States still played that game. And all three of those wrong calls are more famous now than almost anything that was called correctly that year. Bad calls became a part of sports like McDonald's and French fries became part of America. In 2010, a pitcher named Armando Galarraga, one out away from the beginning. One out away from something that only happened 20 times in the entire history of Major League Baseball. 127th out, hit ground ball first. The replay was instant and unambiguous. Umpire Jim Joyce missed it, and history gone. And then something happened that almost never happened. Joyce went to Colorado and apologized. The two made up and wrote a book together. And even with the small number of perfect games, there's very few in Major League history that are more memorable than the time Armando Galarraga spent a 28-out perfect game because Jim Joyce got called on. And the way that Joyce handled that moment, the accountability, the humility, made that moment way more memorable. And if Galarraga had actually got that last out, and the way that Joyce handled that entire messy situation that was national headlines outside sports created something that technology can't do on its own. It created great. It created a human moment. There's this leap that all fans have from just watching it to actually believing the game. And that leap is ultimately what makes sports special. It's what separates it from professional wrestling. And all of this slowly started to change. With the invention of television, someone had a second angle, and a third, and slow motion. Everyone always had an opinion on Paul, but suddenly television gave us the ability to have evidence. All of this sounds like progress, and in many ways it was, but it also shifted something subtle. But once people see the mistake, you can't unsee it. Back in the old days, the call's still good, and the game still was born. In the past, you expect the call's wrong, but now you do. And that knowledge doesn't evolve after the game. Slowly accumulates. These moments didn't disappear into history the way they used to. They built on themselves. And then came something that wasn't about mistakes at all. Ian Donaghy was an NBA reporter. Between 2005 and 2007, he got on games the officiating. He influenced outcomes. He's caught, convicted, and pledged to prison. And in doing so, he planted an idea that couldn't be unpleasant. That the person he trusted to end the argument might have a reason to keep it going. And once that idea ended, the idea that incompetence is the only thing that might change the outcome of the game, that someone might have to be motivated to do so. Every single call starts to land differently. And once that doubt enters, it becomes toxic for sports. You can see this in the language that fans use. It stops being about that call and turns to conspiracies about referees. People talk about sports as having writers' rooms all the time, as if the outcomes of the game and the league are predetermined. People still contest the outcome of the game, but now you're also contesting whether or not we can believe the results that are being presented too. And that changes everything about what the referee is actually there for in sport. Because in the past, the referee was there to end the argument. But now, they're becoming a bigger and bigger part of the argument. The job changed from deciding what happened to explaining what happened. Because once an institution loses authority, when the people it serves stop accepting its judgments by default, then two choices. You can try to rebuild trust through transparency, or you can try to rebuild trust through accuracy. And the league chose accuracy. When I'm working on something like this whether it's interview notes, documents, transcripts, I need something to help organize We're using AI summarization features on most important information, where the AI translation feature is directly translated to your file. The conversation feature allows you to convert PDF files from images, Word, Excel, or PowerPoint format. It also has text recognition, which means if you're working with scanning documents or screenshots, you can turn them into editable text instantly. The editing features can also insert and delete movies as well as add links for stuff. The biggest thing for me is that it works across all platforms, but I'm not stuck in one place where it works. It's also one of the most important AI PDF editors out there. New PDFs cost under $100, which is rare for something this social media. If you want to check it out, I've got a link in the description where you can download it for free and get a $10 link. Thank you for UPDF for sponsoring independent sports journalism out there. Now, so the league built a system that was supposed to check you. It was supposed to fix all the problems with birth. Instant replay of problems. The NFL introduced it in 1996, the NBA added it in 2002, and MLB expanded it in 2014. With it, some of the sports can never release properly. Certainly, subtle enough that we almost didn't notice that. Before replay, you reacted to what happened. After replay, you react to what gets confirmed. That gap between the replay and the feeling, that gap was new. And sports never used to have it. VAR is the cautionary tale of the entire era. Soccer's video review system is technically more accurate than anything that came before. But even though it's more accurate, it is absolutely despised. And it's not because it gets called wrong. It's because of what it does to the experience of being right. With long-term managing the game, to make sure we record the game, and that's what we're getting. But that's why we got to kind of want. So we need to it's that if you design it versus the bad thing, you can make people at least being told the truth. And it's very tough watching things completely different because when things happen, you're not in the moment present with it. You're starting to replay it in your head and giving yourself permission on whether or not to feel anything at all. The game's still happening in front of you, but you're watching it from a slight remove. Analyze, evaluate, the thing that you used to feel, you're now also suffering. Well, then,
Breaking into the Supreme Court this morning, striking down the federal ban on sports betting.
the federal law that bans sports betting most states was overturned in 2018, but 2023 overturned states that use sports games. The leagues who have fought gaming for decades on integrity grounds suddenly embraced it. Betting sponsorships integrated on broadcast, that caused you to feel emotional. But that was way more complicated because the money test. Sure, this has been a theme of our show a lot about how the referee favors the Kansas City Chiefs, how the NFL favors the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't think it's the best. I think it's on one side or the other. Conspiracy theory that used to live on the fringe. That's now the comment section. This is really the worst part of all. Gambling doesn't make you suspicious. That makes you suspicious of the correct. But also be right, the technology can confirm it, but if the one gets your bet, it still feels like something doesn't. That's when our accuracy and trust really come up short. The system got it right, and the fan still doesn't want to believe it. Gambling is creating a fast protocol, one that no amount of knowledge can solve, but that's the question of whether or not the relationship is totally so beyond the gambling. If for millions of fans watching play online, isn't. So the next step seems obvious. The game is created now because they make sense, because they can be compromised, because their people take them out of it. That's what automated ball scoring technology does. How about they respect the pitches the system is without bias, no bad angle, and no umpire with a personal strike that users spend years trying to impose. The KBO has been using ABS since 2024. The umpire stays in place for years and relays whatever is tough and fans love it. Daniel Hughes, KBO insider, reports to the just for the fans for sure. Whether you're watching at home or watching the game,
Yeah, everything's working. That's called the Fredo.
They kept the human thought, and the added challenge. What makes then one of them is a challenge wrong. Get it wrong, and the challenge is wrong. And obviously, will call the bidding, and they have nothing left. That's strategic decisions land on top of emotional ones. There are pros and cons in everything in life, and I think there are definitely pros of the well, best perspective casting. I haven't heard any single complaint from a
Nice.
fan that doesn't like me to be romantic because of the little square. I think they're focusing on that part of the system. I'm a little bit concerned about like people start I think that's the wrong way of approaching it. So that's a little bit of a concern. The KDO optimized for accuracy. MLB in turn optimized for creating as much strategy drama as possible. The decision by the KBO created a clinical fair game. But the decision by Major League Baseball kept the argument alive, for there's still to be something for humans to push back against. Because humans are inevitably going to still make mistakes. We have better tools than ever before to get calls right. So why are there more people than ever before doubting football watching in front of our eyes? Referees tell everyone, the players, the fans, the broadcast history itself. This is what happens. We accept it and move on. That function, the closing of the loop, is what made the experience of sport possible. Because sports requires something from you that almost nothing else does. It requires you to be fully present, feeling it as it happens. The moment doesn't end anymore. It lingers. You wait for confirmation. And with that waiting, something drains
That
energy.
was
But
seventy
it does
percent of
so
my
for a
energy.
moment. All of your feelings are checked, validated, and then released on slight delay. And this ties into belief because belief isn't about knowing the call right. It's about feeling like the moment is real. That what just happened happened. That it counts. That you're allowed to feel it. And that collective willingness to
Wait,
be
that's
in the
big.
moment
That's
with
bigger
other
than it's supposed
people,
to be.
to watch what you're seeing live.
That's more than a.
That's why sports
What
is
is that? Like
special. That is the
120?
product
I
that
wish they just
all
told me right
fans
here.
are trying to sell. It's not about accuracy. It's about the belief that what we see on the field is actually real to real people and isn't preordained by some booking in a back room. And this is the question. This moment in sports history is building up tools. Everything between VAR and BPS and instant replay and gambling is forcing us to confront. Is it still possible to have that experience in a room where every single moment can be replayed? Where every call carries a financial consequence for someone in the building? Where you know the algorithm might be miscalibrated by a fraction of an inch? Can you still make a leap to love and be present for sport? I think it can. But it also requires something that hasn't been necessary for sports fans in the past. It requires a choice. And that choice changes everything. Here's what the KBO, Major League Baseball, and California put them side by side. ABS is the question. The question is what you're trying to protect when you implement this new restart. The KBO wanted to protect fairness. Every pitcher gets the same zone. Every hitter gets the same call. No more inconsistency, no more bad umpires, no more fans leaving the game because they feel cheated. They got exactly what they designed for, and the umpires became managers. MLB made a different choice. They want to protect the argument, the confrontation, the strategy, the moment where the manager charges out the dugout, and everyone in the stadium does the match simultaneously. They kept the human call and added the challenge. And they got exactly what they designed for. More drama, more accountability, more fear. Two leagues, same technology, completely different experiences. Because they asked people questions before they built the system. That design choice on what you decide to protect changes everything about the experience of being a sports fan. It changes the fan experience, it changes the emotional texture of a game, it changes how you watch, and it changes how you believe in sport. This is where gambling makes everything harder because the best design system, even one that preserves the argument, the strategy, public accountability, can't fix the fan who came in with a bet. And this is where gambling makes everything harder because even the best design system, even one that preserves the argument, strategy, public accountability, can't fix the fan who came in with money on a moment. And no amount of good design fixes that. That is a relationship problem. Fans' relationship with the game no longer neutral beyond fans. The system, however well built, was designed for a neutral audience. Sports are cheap. technology is helping us make it more accurate, and that matters. But accuracy was never the whole job. If you want ChatGPT to be the jury on high-profile murder trials, something about that feels totally wrong. Courts like justice is about judgment, and judgment requires someone to understand what it means to be human. In pursuit of the perfect call, we have to reach things for the humanity that made us care about them in the first place. Sports has faced three trust problems. The first was competence. Are the refs good enough? Replay answered that. Second was corruption. Are the refs honest? ABS answered that. Partially true. But the third problem is one no design choice can solve. Is your relationship to the game still neutral? For millions of fans watching with money on the line, it isn't. The willingness to accept what happened, to close the loop and accept emotionally what happened, was never just the job of the referee. It was on the fans too. The referees just made, but the decision to believe what you're seeing and not give yourself doubt about what you're seeing. That's your choice. You have power in that. And right now, for a lot of fans, that leap into believing what your eyes are telling you is harder and harder to make. There are so many gambling scandals happening across sports. And it makes sense that fans are doubting more than ever before what they're watching on the field or the court. But at the same time, more fans are coming in with something beyond wanting their favorite team to win. We're living through a moment where the truth has never been more available, more documented. You can watch the Hawkeye trace the exact path of the ball within a fraction of an inch. But trust has never been lower because this is what gambling has done to sports. Because it didn't just make fans suspicious of a bad call, it made fans suspicious of every call, including the good one. Because even when a call is confirmed correct on the field, there's going to be a fan somewhere, and there's fans on social media asking themselves who benefits from this call going this way. And the willingness to accept what happened is real. It's never just the job of the referee, it's the fans. And the ease of being able to believe what actually happened is way harder now than it's ever been before. And even though we have way more technology than ever before to check whether something is right, the question now is whether or not it's still let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you follow me on social media, or substack if you're looking to see. Hollywood spent 2 years searching the entire world. But people on board that's why it's so close. Lifetime danger zone, just every you can drive the top mile after mile. Right now, get 0% APR finance. Saving on last 2026 Foresters and Crosstrack. You can bring full concourse. Choosing a dealership in our community. Love lifestyle. That's Subaru Concourse.
We can't we're leaving.
The final part tonight. What? We're going to talk about my home fight. Hollywood spent 2 years searching the entire world for someone to play Michael Jackson. They auditioned hundreds of actors, dancers, and performers across multiple continents. Professional casting directors screened thousands of tapes, and after all that searching, the answer is pretty right there in the band. The two were most people don't know. If I Jackson almost didn't get role, there was one moment where the casting process that changed everything. A moment where he wasn't just the best choice. I don't have to show you exactly what no one else on earth is going to play Michael Jackson. And trust me, by the end of the video, you'll understand why this casting decision was actually unavoidable. Let's dive in. Let me paint the picture for you. In 2021, producer Graham King, the same guy who made Bohemian Rhapsody, started the search for someone to play the king of pop. This wasn't some small indie film. This was a major studio biopic about one of the most iconic entertainers who ever lived. They knew the stakes were high. Michael Jackson had fans across every continent, every generation, every culture. Yet the casting wrong, and the entire film would fail before it even started. So they went big, a worldwide casting search. Open calls in Los Angeles, New York, London, Tokyo. They looked at trained actors, professional dancers, Michael Jackson impersonators, people who spent their entire lives July 25th, 1996. His father, Jermaine Jackson, founding member of the Jackson Five. That makes Jafar Michael Jackson's nephew. But this isn't just about having the same last name. This is about genetics. Miles Teller, who plays Michael's lawyer in the film, said something that really stuck with me. He said, "There will never be somebody who portrays somebody in a biopic that has a ton of that DNA already in it." Think about what that means. Jafar didn't have to
Yeah.
learn how to move like a Jackson. It's literally in his DNA. The
Mhm.
way he walks, the way he carries himself, the subtle mannerisms. These aren't things he studied from YouTube videos. These are inherited family traits. The Jackson family has a specific way of moving. If you've ever watched Michael, Janet,
Yeah.
Jermaine,
Everybody.
fluidity, a grace that's distinctly Jackson. Jafar was born with that. But that's not all. His voice. Jafar has the Jackson family vocal tone, that smooth, soulful quality that runs through the entire bloodline. It's not an imitation, it's authentic. Producer Graham King said he was blown away by the way Jafar organically personifies the spirit and personality of Michael. That word, organically. He doesn't have to try, it just is. But wait, having the DNA is one thing. What about actually knowing Michael as a person? This is where it gets deeply personal. Jafar has actual memories of his Uncle Michael. Real memories. Not stories he read in magazines or documentaries he watched. He was at Neverland Ranch. He played hide and seek with Michael. He went on the ride. He watched movies with him during family gatherings.
It's
Now
cool.
think about what that
We got our
means playing
first
this role. An outside
double
actor
S.
could study Michael Jackson for years. They could watch every interview, every performance, every behind the scenes
Falcon.
clip, but they still only know the public Michael Jackson.
Kitty Star.
Jafar knew the private Michael, the uncle who laughed at the fans,
3-star
the
step.
person behind Superstar, the
2-star
man who
frontliner.
the camera in his role.
Boo.
He grew up hearing firsthand stories from his grandmother Catherine, from his father Jermaine, from the people who actually lived those moments. These aren't tabloid stories. These are family truths. And here's exactly how that matters. When you're portraying someone,
Right.
you need to understand not just what they did, but why they did it. You need to understand the emotional weight they carry, the pressure, the loneliness, the love. Jafar understands what it means to carry the Jackson name. He lived through the media frenzy after Michael's death. He knows the burden of that legacy, and he carries it too. Speaking of that burden, this brings us to the moment I mentioned at the beginning, the moment that changed everything. Graham King met Jafar over 2 years before the casting was officially announced. This was early in the process. They were still seeing other actors, still doing a worldwide search. And something happened in that first meeting. King later said, "It was clear that Jafar was the only person to take on this role. There was something so powerful in his presence." Director Antoine Fuqua noticed it too. He talked about Jafar's spiritual connection to Michael. Not just physical resemblance, not just talent, but spiritual connection. And here's what nobody tells you about that meeting. They didn't just sit and talk. They asked Jafar to perform. And when he moved, when he started dancing, the room went quiet. Because they weren't watching someone imitating Michael Jackson. They were watching someone channeling Michael Jackson. The mannerisms weren't sudden. They were natural. The energy wasn't forced. It was organic. The aura, that indefinable quality they've been searching for, was there. That was the moment. That's when they knew. They could search the entire world, audition 10,000 more people, and they'd never find what was standing right in front of them. But wait, if it was that obvious, why did the search continue for 2 more years? Here's the truth. Even though they knew Jafar was special, they had to be absolutely certain. Because casting a family member comes with risk. Critics would say it's nepotism. People would question whether he earned the role or was just handed it because of his name. weight of that statement. Catherine knew Michael better than anyone on earth. She raised him. She watched him become a superstar. She witnessed his struggles, his triumphs, his pain. If she says Jafar embodies Michael, that's not just a family being supportive. That's validation from the ultimate authority. This wasn't nepotism. This was the people who knew Michael best saying, he's the one. But that's not all. There's one more piece to this puzzle that makes Jafar truly irreplaceable. Let me break down what an outside actor, no matter how talented, could never bring to this role. They could never have the genetic resemblance. Makeup only goes so far. There's something about actual DNA that you just can't fake. They could never have the inherited movement patterns. These come from growing up in the Jackson family. The way Jafar moves isn't learned, it's in his blood. They could never have the natural vocal tone. That Jackson sound is in the DNA. An actor can train for years, but they'd still be imitating. Jafar doesn't have to imitate. They could never have personal memories of Michael. You can't research what it felt like to be at Neverland Ranch. You can't Google the sound of Michael's laugh during a private family moment. They could never have the family's blessing. Not like this. Catherine Jackson said Jafar embodies her son. She would never feel the same watching a stranger play Michael. They could never have the spiritual connection. You either have it or you don't. Director Antoine Fuqua saw it immediately. It's not something acting school can teach, and they could never have the understanding of what it means to carry that legacy every single day. Jafar didn't research the Jackson name for a role. He lived with it his entire life. Here's exactly how to think about it. An actor plays a role. Jafar carries his uncle's spirit. There's a fundamental difference. Jafar doesn't impersonate Michael Jackson. He channels him. And that's something no amount of training, no amount of talent can ever replicate. After searching the entire world for 2 years, the answer was there all along. In the family. Supercars have a massive problem, and this is it. So recently, I've been looking at my metrics for my supercar content on YouTube and other social media platforms, and the results are quite alarming to say the least. You see, on some of the videos, there is zero, yes, 0% viewers under the age of 35. The main demographics on some of the videos, literally over 65. Now, before anyone starts typing in the comments, I know, Don Sergi Cartin has always skewed older. That's not a secret. But 0% of fighter jets so secret. Even most of the Pentagon didn't know its full capability. A program so big, it was in the shadows for 5 years before anyone knew its name. A freight plane so enormous, each single aircraft costs more than a presidential fleet. And now, for the first time, America has officially moved up the curtain. The
Sweet.
F-47
We got our first key to sign. Double S.
will change air warfare.
All right. Let's go for
What makes this truly stunning
another.
is one built on
Mhm.
the